All
This is
right.
so great. I'm really excited that
Yeah,
we're doing
it says
this.
live on Facebook.
Okay, good. Good.
Okay.
I think we're there then, which is great. Okay, let's see. So get all situated here so that I can see you and we're talking. I'm going to open this over here so that I can see any questions or people who pop on.
All right. Hello, people on Facebook.
Come hang out with us.
Yeah, get comfy.
Diana's on.
Awesome.
People joining. This is awesome. All right, let's see. So, okay. This is great. All right, so for folks who are with us again this week and folks who will see us later, I'm Hannah Rechtschaffen, the Director of Placemaking for the Mill District in North Amherst. This is the second episode with a guest, of So Ask Us, which is our new Facebook Live series. The whole purpose of this series is just to be talking to different friends and partners and community members and business owners, and just connecting and hearing about everyone's experience. Since we're sort of at home, we're all working from home, and just finding different ways to stay involved with one another. And I'm super excited today to be talking to Shalini Bahl from Downtown Mindfulness. She is our mindfulness partner for the Mill District, and we're going to talk more about what that means. But Shalini, I will just pass it to you for a minute and let you talk a little bit about who you are and why are we talking to you?
Awesome. Hello, everybody who's watching and who will be watching, hopefully. Well, the first thing I think is, because this is a Zoom call, I just want to say that our technology may be off and so forth. So whenever there are moments where this technology breaks down, I invite everyone to take that opportunity to just breathe. So use that time for self-care, for just taking a breath, for maybe looking out at the sky, or make that your moment of joy. Okay. Second thing, get comfy. So I'm sitting outside and I've got my Game of Thrones blanket and I have my coffee. And I think why we're here is just to see what happens, what comes out of a conversation when two human beings intentionally sit down and in the middle of it all and see what comes up. And since I work and study and teach and research mindfulness, there will be some mention of mindfulness for sure. We will definitely be, yeah, just a little, we'll talk about that. And what does that even mean? And then what is mindfulness in the Mill District? What is the connection there? So I'm hoping we're going to explore that, and any questions that you have, if anyone's watching or will watch, either right now, live, or even later on, if you happen to see this and you have any questions about mindfulness in the Mill District, Mindful Mill, what does that even mean? Feel free to comment.
Perfect. Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that. So anyone who's watching, feel free to ask. And that is a really great point. If you have questions, and I can repeat this at the end, but if you reach out to me, Hannah, HANNAH at Coles, COWLS.com, with any questions for Shalini, I will get them to her and connect you with her, because the work that you're doing, Shalini, is so awesome and just really, I feel like, pervasive in people's lives. Like, mindfulness is something, we talk a little bit more about this, but mindfulness is something that I feel like really spans the spectrum from, just day to day, you're living your life and you remember to take a few breaths, all the way to the 8-week course that I took with you that is more in depth, more planned. You're really spending an hour each week delving into it. So can you talk a little bit about the ways that mindfulness moves between that daily couple seconds of breath to a really deep practice?
Yeah, absolutely. When I go to places and ask people what is mindfulness, and the first thing people think about is just the meditation practice that we do,
Right.
or it's that intentionally taking a breath and being present, being aware. And those are all aspects of this very complex dimension. It's like answering what is love, right? Because it's also, we feel it, we know it when we feel love, but it's hard to describe it in words. And
Yeah.
I'm going to try though. So mindfulness is really about us learning to be aware of what's happening internally and what's happening externally. So we're broadening our lens of awareness and not allowing that to overcome our experience, or not allowing our past conditioning or our emotions to overcome, so that we sort of lose that sense of center and control. The way I think about it is, what I'm offering to people are the skills that were never taught in school or in college. And, certainly I got my PhD, and yet when there were moments where I was struggling most in life, whether it was in a personal relationship or a career question, it wasn't my degrees or what my parents taught me or what my school taught me or what my culture taught me. It was really about slowing my mind and finding those answers within, or even knowing who to reach out to, and how to navigate this, this change in my life. And so I really think of this as skills that I really wish all kids would grow up with. Just as an example, for example, the biggest one for me is like emotions. And especially right now, emotions are so alive for everyone, whether it's fear or anxiety or grief, some of the common emotions we're feeling. And as children, what were we taught about emotions? So when you were angry, what did your parents say? Don't be angry. Or if you're sad and you're crying, you're like, stop crying. Or, so we were told, right, the message given to us about our emotions, especially the negative ones, is it's something to be avoided.
Move out of it.
Yeah. And what if we were taught how to listen to our emotions as providing us important information about something our rational mind is not seeing? For example, fear, which we might be feeling right now for very good reasons, it's something people will be like, oh my God, I'm so anxious and I don't know what to do about it. And they try to suppress it and avoid it. But fear is there for our survival. It's been wired into our brain for us to muster up the energy to prepare for some change in the environment. So it's not something to be like, oh no, I'm afraid. It's more like, oh, there's fear, there's anxiety. What is going on? And this is my body preparing me for doing certain things, whether it's getting more information, how to take care of myself, how to take care of my family, how to plan right now. So if we shift our thinking about it and how we think about fear, that same emotion becomes productive. And so that's one example of how, by becoming aware of how our minds work, how our emotions, our bodies, what information they're providing to us, and then we can do something productive, creative, even joyful maybe with that information.
That's so interesting. I feel like what you're talking about in a way is really shifting the narrative around some of those more negative emotions and allowing them to be useful tools the same way we see positive emotions as being useful tools, rather than, taking it and letting it be paralyzing, which sometimes it is and sometimes it's going to be, but really learning slowly to say, you know what, this fear is taking me somewhere. If I can kind of be friends with it almost, or frenemies with it almost, maybe that's the first step.
Right. Absolutely. I love that. Befriending is something we talk about. It's really like seeing that emotion as your best friend, because it truly is. It's
Yeah.
there to keep you alive. It's there for your
Right.
best interests. So it is our best friend.
Interesting.
And you mentioned about, you know, the positive versus negative emotions, and there is stuff about happiness too, which we have it totally backwards. For example, research shows that, you know, many of us have these thoughts that, oh, once I do this, like, oh, once my book is published, I'll be happy, or once I have tenure, I'll be happy, or once all these stores in the mill district fill up, I'll be happy.
Really great.
Right. And
Great
so
example.
so we postpone, or we kind of think that that's what will make us happy. And research shows actually that's not always the case. It's the other way around. When we are happy, we are more successful. So rather than postponing our happiness to when things happen, if we learn the skills to find the joy in the middle of what's happening, to find that within us we have the capacity to be okay, the capacity to notice everything that's okay right now. When we work from that place of joy that's not affected by external circumstances, research found those people are more successful in their careers, in their relationships, and their health. So it's just something, and yeah, right. And we kind of don't think about happiness in that way, or there's so much that I feel like unless you're a major in psychology or a doctor or whatever, and even them, we don't learn these things. And if we were given the tools, we could find these and discover this, all of this for ourselves. So we don't have to be a scholar to know about the mind, about our heart, about our bodies. But if we had the tools, we could, you know, learn these things.
That's so interesting. Oh, I love it. And speaking of joy, I'm seeing people join us. And so hi, Dawn and Diana and Jennifer. This is so exciting. I love seeing people on here. And I think your point is so well taken right now in terms of, you know, this crisis, because when I talk to people, just, you know, friends and colleagues, everybody's going up and down, right? Some days are good, some days are bad, some days we feel like we have a handle, some days we feel like everything is slipping away. But I feel like what you're talking about is finding almost a constant undercurrent of, you know, maybe not big joy, big happiness, but a contentment and an awareness.
Right.
I mean, would you call it a sense of, I don't know, a sense that there can be a contentment and a comfort even as that roller coaster is happening?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's good to mention that this inner unconditioned quality of joy is not that yay, yippee kind of happiness, which comes and goes and we can all enjoy it. But this is when we just appreciate, it's kind of an appreciative joy when we're able to notice. And the reason we're not able to notice, for example, my body is working. I have clean air right now. I'm sitting in this beautiful town. I come from India, so I really, really appreciate it. There's so much pollution in India, and so you know, we don't have this. And so just the fact that I am in the middle of all this, and so something called the negativity bias, which again is for our survival. So we tend to focus and give more negative things that are happening. And so this appreciative joy is a skill we can actually, it's a frame of mind or a mindset we can cultivate so that we are actually also noticing, yes, we're aware of the difficulty and the challenges, but we're also able to look at the opportunities, at what's right, what is wholesome, what's working in my body right now. I can be really grateful for that. And just that gratitude shifts our experience of joy. It moves from stress to, oh, okay, I'm okay right now.
Yeah.
So I know it is a really difficult time, especially for some people more than others. And so I don't want to downplay the difficulty or the challenges that some people have when they don't know they'll lose their jobs, or they have lost their jobs and they have kids at home and they're homeschooling. Well, there's a lot. I mean, there are layers and layers of suffering that has been brought upon all, some people more than others, the inequities that we have in our society. And so that none of this is to ignore and downplay any of that.
Yeah.
And given the circumstances we're in, if we could cultivate the capacity to find those reserves within us, no matter where we are, who we are, we can learn to, and because one thing that does happen when we are under fight or flight is our thinking ability gets dampened. Like it's said that IQ drops 10 to 15 points. So we lose that capacity to think clearly in those moments. And so just the fact, if everyone had these skills right from school, no matter where they were, they could learn, okay, in that moment, instead of, letting overwhelm and take over, like if I can just stop and see who can I reach out to, or who can I ask for help. And same thing for people who have more time or more energy. And I am seeing that a lot in our community, which is really has been so moving for me to see that how parents, how our town employees, reaching out, whether it's the masks project, making masks available for everyone. Let's get everyone to make those, or whether it's providing internet to families who don't have. The parents got together and created a fund, and now internet is more easily. So there is that goodness in all of us that also surfaces in times like this. And so yeah, that's all I'll say for now.
Yeah, no, those are all really good points. And I want to reiterate quickly before we keep going, if you have a question, please feel free to ask it. I have so many questions, but feel free to interrupt me out there if you have a question. But you brought up the example of, when the stores in the Mill District are filled, then we'll be happier, then we'll, be ready to go. And I definitely feel in my job, I kind of exist in that interim space where with placemaking, I'm aware or mindful all the time that life is happening. The development that's happening in North Amherst and other places in the valley, it's sort of paused. And we're all in this mix of trying to figure out where we're going, when we'll be able to do this, when things will move forward here. But then at the same time, I have really valued some of the mindfulness skills that you taught us in our 8-week course, because it makes me aware that there's no real difference between the present and the future when it comes to being able to make things happen and being able to create spaces for people to meet in. And we've worked with you a little bit and are continuing to formulate an idea of what the mindful mill is like. And for me, bringing mindfulness together with development and especially change has been really profound. After working in economic development for a long time, this is the first time I've gotten to kind of bring mindfulness and my more spiritual practice together with my professional practice. So can you speak a little bit to Mindful Mill and what the idea is behind kind of bringing what sometimes is a very personal, self-focused practice into a mutual practice space, a community space?
Yeah. No, I think this is such a great opportunity. And it was when it came up, the idea of Mindful Mill, because I've been teaching mindfulness at the individual level. Right. And what you're saying is now how to bring it, what does it look like to make it part of a collective? And And I find that that's been something I've been searching for, because I've been teaching in big organizations and children and different populations, but it's always at the individual level. And even though mindfulness has boomed so much, the question in my mind was, I'm not seeing the necessary shift in the organization, for example. So individuals are taking these classes, they are more mindful, they're less stressed now, but then they're doing the same thing more efficiently now. So now they have the skills to do the same old, just longer and faster, maybe.
Right.
And it's not shifting the mindset of the corporation. And the real intention for mindfulness, as I understand, was the origins of it coming from the Buddha, not as a teacher, not as a god or deity or anything, but just as a person who really spent a lot of his life to figuring out the source of suffering and how to free people from suffering. And when I take that intention at the way we're teaching it, and is okay, at the individual level, we're giving people the tools to be free from their stress, and that's a very worthy cause. But it's not shifting, if it's not helping shift the suffering of the communities at large or the world at large, then there's something missing in at least the potential for this work. So I've been interested a lot in looking at mindfulness at the individual level, but then at the level of the collective, and then taking it to a whole, maybe a whole organization, and then beyond an organization, maybe a mindful community or a mindful city. What does that look like? So it's still work in progress, and it's an experiment because not many people are doing it. Yes, it's starting to happen, the mindful cities, and I've been in touch with the people in Boston and other places where we're starting to explore what mindfulness looks as a collective. And so when Cinda was open to that idea and actually said, why don't you try a prototype here? And I was like, absolutely. And so I think what I find interesting, and we're open. So if anyone ever hears this and sees this, and if you have ideas, what you would like to see in a mindful mill, we're listening. But I think the foundation for a mindful mill or mindful city is the intention. So the intention of the people who are the key stakeholders, and in this case, you people at the mill district. So it starts with the intentionality of not going by same old way of thinking, but being having the intention of building something that really takes care. And as I was thinking about this question, I thought of the kind of people, for example, that you are partnering with, just the advertising or marketing branding company Brigade that you interviewed last week. And I was listening into that, and I'm like, oh my God. And she spoke about authenticity as such an important aspect of the marketing message, right? So then I've spoken with Alex at Jake's, for example. And when I spoke to him, I could see that he really cares. He loves what he's doing and the way he prepares the food and where he sources it. And so the whole process, and I was just thinking of all these people that you are drawing to the mill district, it's very intentional. The space at Bread and Butter with Jake's is now stayed closed it was vacant for so long, but Cinda didn't fill it up with a Starbucks, or, she waited for the right retail person. And I'm giving these examples as where we can bring intentionality. It's not about just maximizing profit, because as a marketing professor, as a PhD in marketing, that's kind of what we teach people in business schools is it's the mission of any business is maximizing shareholder value. And I always had a problem with that, because coming from this place of mindfulness, I see we're all interconnected. So if anything, we need to be maximizing all stakeholders' value. And so it all comes down to that intentionality of who are you partnering with? Who are you inviting as retailers? Then you have Beacon, and I spoke with Arthur, and I'm like, oh my God, I love the way he spoke about the community they want to build in their, right? So it all comes down that we're not operating out of the old paradigm of like, how do I make maximum money at the end of this year or 10 years? But it's more about, can we build something here? That's what I hear Cinda saying. That's why you're here for placemaking, is that how do we make this a meaningful place for people to connect and have experiences, get off our phones and have real, and that's what we're doing right now. For example, you thought of this, so ask us, and what could be more authentic, honest way of just showing up and saying, ask me anything, and I will answer you honestly. And through this conversation, we might come up with some idea or something that we didn't think of. So to me, the mindful mill is built on that idea of having the intention of building something, which in this case is building community. And then once you have the intention, taking actions. So it's not just like, oh, we have this mission and you put it in your office, but you're actually acting on it. So your actions are intentional, whether the kind of people you hire, like yourself, and like whether the retailers who come in, the people you partner with. So it's built on that. And then it's like, I love that, we have the survival center there. So it's like looking at how all of these different stakeholders in the Mill District can interact and be part of what we're creating here as a dynamic, empowered, creative community where people have meaningful experiences. So to me, that is living the work of mindfulness, of intentionality, of compassion, of
I love that. I love all the examples that you're pointing to, and I think they're so wonderful. And the example you give about how we've kind of taught business and marketing in a certain way for such a long time, and it makes me think of UMass students that we've been working with in the last years in different classes, and there's a lot of tension in Amherst, in any college town. There's always sort of tension between the student population and the resident population, and so I always see that as part of my job is to create a space where everybody feels comfortable to different degrees, right? And it's, the audience that you are opening a space up to is going to approach it in all different ways because of their background. And when we think about business, or it makes me think of medical school and how little nutrition is taught. It's like there are these gaps in how we teach things. Do you find because I know you've done some work with UMass in different capacities, and I'm sure other schools, do you think that there is an opportunity for, or maybe already some movement towards bringing mindfulness more into sectors like business, like medicine, where it hasn't been before?
That's a really good question. I'm certainly seeing more invitations to come and teach mindfulness in schools, and including the Eisenberg. But I think it has to again work. Either there are people within Eisenberg or other schools where they have benefited personally, and so I work with the director for university. I believe her position is in the Eisenberg, and so she has taken my class and really benefited from that. And so she then invited me to do a workshop on mindfulness and racism and equity and things like that. So it's like we need individuals who have benefited, but then also I think schools respond to the demand in the marketplace. And so now as organizations are beginning to see the need for this, so I've taught more probably in organizations than in the university. And for a long time, I've been trying to reach out to the university. Hey, I'm a local resource. Please use me. Let me come teach. I'll do it for free. No, okay, not that message. Type that out. Not for free. But I am doing a lot. free. And that is one of my goals, by the way, just to be clear, is to make mindfulness accessible to everyone. So I never say
Yeah.
no to anyone because of money or financial constraints. And that being said, for people who can't pay, should pay. But um, but I feel like they weren't that open to it till now, that the businesses are demanding, and you have CEOs, like especially of Salesforce is one company that I really feel is embodying it at all the levels, not just individuals. So
Interesting.
Mark Benioff, and like Salesforce is like the fourth largest technology company in the world right now.
Yeah.
And so Mark Benioff at an economic forum, for example, said, uh, it's like music to my ears, is like, we need to maximize all stakeholder value and not just shareholder value. I'm like, yay, that's so
Yeah.
awesome that they're saying that. So I think as more businesses, and then they hire and they have class, and like Google, for example, is hiring people. A lot of engineering companies are hiring people not just based on their GPAs now, but they're looking at the emotional intelligence of the students.
Right.
And, because that's what's the difference between a really successful leader and an okay leader, is that emotional intelligence.
Right.
And
What we
so
call soft skills, right?
soft skills, exactly. So, and it's great that it's so ironic that these soft skills actually are most sought out now in technology companies, which is
Yeah.
a hard science base. And they're the ones like from the Silicon Valley, where the Google, that's where one of my trainings is. And they started the program Search Inside Yourself, which was a mindfulness-based emotional intelligence training. And it's one of the most filled up courses. And it became so popular that they brought in they started teaching other teachers to go out and teach that. So it is like, I think that coming from outside, and then you have some politicians now, like Tim Ryan in Ohio, and other people, myself included, kind of, so we're trying to bring, not trying, but like organizations start finding value in it, then I think the schools will also start
Yeah.
looking and adjusting to that need.
That is such a great point. And it really makes me think, as my mind comes back to this time that we're in right now, one thing I've been thinking about so much is how the in-person world, which we're struggling right now because we can't meet up in person and hug each other and be really present right in front of one another, and we're use this digital technological platform more. And as I look forward and try and think about recovery and how we move out of this time, I think those two things are actually going to come together in a really unprecedented way, which I kind of find exciting. Where, for instance, when I think about creating space in the Mill District for in this time when people can't gather, I think about things like putting up public art that people can enjoy on their own time, in their own way, be really present with it, take a walk when they want to, look around. But part of enjoying art for me was always the connection that I got to have with other people that I was with, going to see a piece of art with someone else and then getting to talk about it. And so it's made me think more about, if we're going to put public art up that people can enjoy in person and take that mindful moment to stand in front of and kind of take it in, I also want to have a space where people can talk and can gather, and that space might have to be online for a while. So it makes me think, when you mentioned Google and Salesforce, which is a customer relationship management software, those are companies that are always thinking about connecting, but they're also always thinking about the online world. So to hear that they are thinking too about how those two worlds almost come together, people have to understand emotional connection and real human interaction to understand what real connection online means also. So there's this really interesting crossover that you're talking about that I feel like is really heightened right now, where we're going to have to exist in these two worlds together. So we're getting kind of close to time. I don't see any other questions, so I'm going to ask you one more.
Yes.
Kind of on that subject of sort of how it's been for you to transition all of your work online, and have you continued to, I know you've continue to offer a really wonderful session on Fridays at noon on the Mill District Facebook about, stress management and really kind of showing up to the challenges right now. How has it been for you to have so much of your emotional connectivity and work be in this online platform?
Right. So, I mean, the immediate effect was I couldn't hold classes in my studio, Downtown Mindfulness. I was supposed to be teaching a retreat at Kripalu that got canceled. And these are things that it's with my favorite teacher, Mirabai Bush, and Barry from mine. So it was going to be like, it's our annual gathering now. Like, we, as teachers, we love that. So that was lost. And then, and I teach other organizational places like Maya Insurance and all. So all of these places where I physically go got canceled. So that was the first, like, whoa, that just happened. And but like, I feel that my whole mindfulness training for all of this time was to really meet these kind of situations when things suddenly change, and saying, oh no, that sucks. And then very quickly, like, we are going to have that, oh no, that sucks moment. But then how to be able to pivot and see, okay, and open up to what is the opportunity in this situation. And so one of the things that really came up through that is this Friday sessions with the Mill District, the BID, and the Chamber. And then now recently, the Greenfield Community College is offering. And last time we had 20 people who came from GCC. Yeah. So I just feel like it suddenly has, I don't think I would have been teaching mindfulness to the 20 people who came from GCC under normal circumstances.
Right.
So, and here I am, like, on Zoom connecting with people, and there's a couple from my classes from New Hampshire, and then they moved to Maine, and now they're on Zoom. So I'm doing a class and they're able to attend it. They were the first people I said, hey, I'm going to do this class on Zoom. Do you? And they're like, yes. So, so there are these opportunities where I had not even imagined. And I'm like, why was I not doing this before? Like, why wasn't I offering these mindfulness classes? So the Friday sessions are totally free, no sign up necessary. And it was just, as to make it as easy as possible for people to. It is harder to learn sometimes these skills in the middle of when so much is happening.
Sure.
So, so other than that, I think it's given me opportunities to reach out. I worked with, there was a huge conference sort of online, the Boston Center for Excellence. They reached out to me, and because they're looking for mindfulness and other skills during how to meet COVID with that. And so it's like, I'm suddenly meeting with people around the globe, and having a new channel open up. That was my intention, how to make this accessible to as many people who need it. And so here it is, it's in the most unfortunate, after we finish, that this channel will continue to exist. For this work to reach out to more people.
Yeah, I agree. I think it will continue to exist because it does bring an accessibility in such an ironic way, because we think of connection, real connection has to be in person, but now we're really going deeper with online connecting and actually seeing into people's homes, into people's lives, and it is so different. It's so wonderful.
I know. And I hope that it does get us to contemplate a little bit about the use of technology, because I know that while it's facilitating these conversations, I'm also feeling the burnout of, just being on the screen. And small social experiment thing that so for example, I didn't start it, but there was this little social experiment going on Facebook where you don't post a picture and you just say, there's this little big paragraph you write that if you know me and if you read through to the end. And basically the idea was to see who will actually post without any glamour shots or anything, just plain text. Who's going to read it? And then you were supposed to write down where you first met that person and then share, copy and paste it on your thing. So it sounds like a frivolous thing, but honestly, for me, the people who ended up reading it and then posting that one thing, smile. It made me think of the time where I had that donda, is a Indian sweet, with my friend in her kitchen, and apparently we ate 2 kgs of it in 2 days. So that made me like,
real friendship.
yeah. Or someone else said something else, like shifting paradigm, or how they know me, how they remember me. And the idea was, here is Facebook, no picture, nothing great, just one word being shared by people, but it was so meaningful and it made me smile. Versus on Mother's Day, I had this amazing time and my son made pancakes and I took all these pictures, and then my son's like, why are you taking so many pictures? Just enjoy it. And I'm like, no, I got to do this because I have to do Instagram. I have to promote my classes, blah, 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 blah. And so here I was taking all these pictures and I'm enjoying. I totally enjoyed the pancakes and all of that. But when I went down to share those pictures on Facebook and Instagram, I stopped. I couldn't do it because I was like, why?
Yeah.
What is the need to post yet another picture on Facebook?
Yeah.
So it really made me think about, how can we use Facebook, Instagram, all of this in a more meaningful way and not get burned out by it?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. Those are wonderful stories. And I'm so glad that your son said something too, because he was clearly feeling a certain way about it, which is so interesting.
Do and blah blah, but
Right.
but it's in that moment I was like, and he's like, I'm so sorry, Mom, I know I take you for granted, and I kindly totally pivoted, and it was so sweet. And it was like, oh. And then I told him later, no, you had a point.
Yeah. Oh, that's so wonderful. Shalini, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. This has been a really wonderful conversation. I'm a little teary-eyed. I really appreciate the work that you do, and the mindful mill with you. It's been a real adventure, and it just keeps growing. Like you say, it's an experiment, and we all are in this wild life experiment right now, and it's wonderful to be in it with you. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And I could not imagine a better person to be in the Mill District right now than you. So thank you. Yeah, no,
I
really.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love it. I love it. And this is so great. This is so great. And I'll
group hug, everybody.
Please hug, Zoom hug. We have to work hugs, right?
I know.
Oh, and I'll plug really quickly for next week for anyone watching. We're going to be talking to Ariel Jessup. She is our artist in residence right now in the Mill District. She's an East Hampton-based artist, Amherst, and she will be doing some public art around the Mill District. So look out for that. And next week we'll talk to her about being an artist in this time and every other time and all of that. So I hope you'll tune in 11 o'clock next Wednesday. Shalini, thank you so much. We really appreciate you.
Over to Jake's now. Let's get some food. Okay. Bye. All right. Bye for now.
Bye.